This picture was taken in 1980 at Disneyland. The little girl in the far right-hand corner, her name is Donna, and she's 5 years old in this photo. The picture was taken by Donna's mother while they were on vacation. 22 years after this pic was taken, Donna and her fiance Alex were going through Donna's photo album to find pictures for their wedding, and they come across this photo. Alex is looking at the photo, he looks harder, and he says, "You know what? That looks like my dad." And Donna says, "What do you mean?" And he says, "Back there, pushing the stroller, that looks just like my dad." And he said, "I know it's not, but it looks exactly like him." Then he looks even harder and he says, "You know what? That looks like me in the stroller." And Donna says, "We know that's not possible." And he says, "No, I know, but it's just crazy. That looks like me and my dad." So they turn the page, but then Alex turns back and he says, "Man, I got to figure this out. This looks just like me and my dad." So he calls his parents and he says, "Mom, when did we go to Disneyland?" And she says, "We went in 1980. And he says, "Can you go dig up our photos and tell me what me and my dad were wearing?" So his mom goes and gets the photos and explains what him and his dad were wearing. And sure enough, that was his dad pushing him in the stroller in the background of this photo. They were there in 1980 as well. And the crazy part about it is they were living in Canada at the time. They met 15 years after this photo was taken as adults. They're married, they have children of their own, and they went back to Disneyland to recreate this photo. But this is just a crazy story. I don't believe in coincidences. I don't know what you call it. Some call it the red string theory, but this was dope to me.
I work security at Disney World, and I don't think people would believe this if I didn't say it out loud. I usually avoid saying that online, but there's no way to tell this without context. A few days ago, management asked me to look into a hotel room that hadn't turned over. Housekeeping went in after checkout time and everything was still there. Clothes, luggage, snacks, kids stuff, like a family had just stepped out and never came back. The reservation was a family of 4, mom, dad, 2 kids. The calls to the family went straight to voicemail. Their car was still parked in the parking lot. That's when it stopped feeling like a mix-up. So I started pulling activity from their stay. Dining plan, park entries, ride history. Their last full day was at Magic Kingdom. Breakfast, a couple rides, and then it's a small world. Late morning, nothing after that. I called someone I know over there and asked him to check the cameras. The loading footage showed all 4 of them getting on the ride. Wristband scanned, normal. The exit camera, just the other guests, not them. The ride got shut off, middle of the day, lights on, music off. People walked the track more than once. They found 3 phones and a kid's hat. No people. I couldn't let it go. That's when I checked Memory Maker. It's the photo system. Ride photos automatically saved to a guest account. Their account had 732 photos. The first few were normal, smiling, crowds, castle shots. Then every single one after that was from It's a Small World. The ride only takes 1 photo per loop. In the early ones, they looked confused, then scared. In later photos, people start disappearing. Dad first, and one of the kids. In the last few, the mom and 1 child are still there, sitting upright, eyes open, not moving, and I swear, the dolls are closer every time. The file size keeps increasing. New photos are still being added. The police just arrived. Disney's going to say a family vanished. They didn't. I know where they are. Everyone keeps asking where they are. That's the wrong question, because according to the system, they never left. Once the police showed up, everything changed. Not loudly, but quietly, 2 officers came in. Then a third. Then someone who didn't introduce himself at all. They took my phone. They didn't ask. They took it. They said it was standard because I'd accessed guest data outside my department. That's when Disney security stepped in. And I mean Disney security. Not the people in polos, different badges, no names. They told me the photos were a system error, a duplication loop, old ride data being misattributed. I asked them to explain why the timestamps were still updating. No one answered that. They escorted me out of the room and told me to go home. Paid leave. Don't discuss this was the phrase they used. But I didn't go home. I went back to my car and sat there for almost an hour, staring at the parking garage. The family's car was still there, still dusty, still locked. That's when my phone buzzed. They hadn't wiped everything. 1 notification slipped through. Memory Maker, new photo added. I really shouldn't have opened it, but I did. The image wasn't from the ride camera, it was darker, closer, and the angle was wrong, like it was taken from inside the boat. The mom was still sitting there, only now she wasn't facing forward. She was looking directly at the camera. Her mouth was open. Not screaming, just open. Behind her, one of the dolls wasn't in its set anymore. It was sitting in the empty seat. I closed the app. The photo count changed anyway. 733, 734, 735. That's when I realized something I really wish I hadn't. It's a Small World doesn't loop forever, not for guests. And whatever's taking those photos is still on the ride. I start a meeting tomorrow. They want me to sign paperwork, NDA stuff, reassignment. I don't think I'm supposed to say anything else. But if the photos stop updating, that means someone finally got off the ride. And I don't think that's a good thing.
Back in the day, she was a talent scout at Disney. It's around 100 kids every year that go missing from Disney. And some people like to believe there's tunnels below Disney, but there kind of has to be, because there's so much surveillance and so much people walking around. It's got to be one of those things where you got tunnels in the bathrooms. There's got to be some type of shit going on, because it's not that easy to just pick up a kid and run out the building and run out the amusement park. It can't be that simple. It's got to be a little more complex. And I do think that there are more underground tunnels and stations than there are to be believed. So 21 trillion has been vanished. Some people say military black budget, working on UFOs and reverse engineering crafts and new weapons and biochemical weapons and all this shit. That's where that 21 trillion went missing. But I think the real place that money has gone, a good chunk of it, is the underground tunnels and building underground cities.
You guys won't believe what I found. Check this out. On October 12th of this year, it's been reported that 4-year-old Lay went missing at Disneyland. So the mom reports that this happened in a bathroom and she saw her daughter get taken through a trap door similar to this one. But let me tell you why this isn't far-fetched. Disneyland has an entire tunnel system that goes throughout the whole park. Now they say the tunnel system is used for employees, but could be used for nefarious purposes as well. Now here's the part that really gets spooky. Now remember back in 2007 when the FBI cracked the case of these pedo symbols and what they mean? Yeah, boy lover, girl lover, etc. Can somebody tell me why these symbols are not only on the merchandise, but throughout the park as well? There is no mistake, you guys. Look at Minnie's body. Tell me what that looks like. And Mickey's holding it.
What about, I'm just gonna put this out there, what about the tunnels beneath the underground tunnels? I don't like this. It's a Small World. The way that he wrote this made it sound like it was completely real. He was like saying that, where the door was located on the ride, and then he like fell into this trap door and then found like kids underneath.
It really makes you think, because just a few weeks later after the missing girl story, this guy shows up. He comes out of nowhere at It's a Small World ride. So did he come from the tunnels or just a distraction? So the case is still unsolved and reportedly the girl is still missing. But what do you guys think about all this? Comment below.
I think the scariest story I've heard of Disneyland, I don't know if you guys have heard this, supposedly, if you're still there after closing time, the little puppets from It's a Small World, they start running around the park and they take kids.
Stop. I went inside.
Isn't it creepy?
Creepy.
Supposedly a worker hung himself in there.
What? I heard about that. It was a while back.
Yeah, it was a
Why
while
didn't y'all
back.
tell me this before? I was kind of
chill.
looking for the brown kids and they only had one. And I was like, where are the Mexicans
Yeah,
at?
no
Because
inclusivity.
they're going through the world and they only got
yeah.
that one kid. I was like,
They should make a Peso Pluma.
oh, they should.
Peso Pluma puppet in It's a Small World.
dancing there. Just hide them in there. With a little hair.
Why is It's a Small World the scariest ride at Disneyland? Yes, this family classic attraction has a lot of creep factors that bother fans, but do you know the scariest? The dolls have to get a haircut once a year. Yes, it actually grows. The hair is made of yarn and the humidity causes it to stretch out and become misshapen, thus needing a haircut once a year.
Hey y'all, it's Auntie and I am back. Taking a walk with Bella. Disney deep diving still though. It's a small world after all. It's a small world after all. It's a small world after all. Come on, Bella. Bella, come on. It's a small, small world. Do you all know that ride, Small World at Disney World, it never turns off. They never turn it off. The children never stop dancing. To the point, they never stopped dancing when the park was shut down during COVID. Isn't that strange? Yeah. So during COVID, Disneyland, Disney World, was shut down for 2 years. The children on the Small World ride were dancing the whole time. Now, I don't know what that means. I just know it seems extremely creepy to me. And I want to know, does anyone else know about that? Have you ever heard of that? Yeah. Small World never turns off. When the park shuts down, when it's closed at night, when it's closed down because of COVID, the children are always dancing. Yeah, Disney deep dive.
I wasn't even sure if I was going to make a video on this, but I got tagged in it a couple times, which is kind of cool, but it's not the point. I know if you follow me, you've probably seen the incident happening with It's a Small World. For some reason, it always just happens to be this ride when anything crazy happens. Now, I don't feel comfortable sharing videos just because of respect of privacy, because this man was obviously going through something, and also it's kind of inappropriate to share on TikTok. But if you're in the small majority that doesn't know what's going on, basically a man removed all of his clothing, and It's a Small World. We don't know the reason, we don't know the context, he just did it. And I've been asked a few times about, like, what are the next steps when something like this happens? And I need to reiterate here that I don't speak for the brand or the company, this is based off my experiences. I work in Epcot where you can drink around the world, and this doesn't happen a lot, but out of all the parks, it happens a lot more, where someone drinks a little too much and then does something that they probably shouldn't have, and the consequences are unfortunately usually that they get trespassed. So if I had to guess, he is going to be trespassed for life, and that's the least of his worries, because he's also going to go on many lists because he was undressed in a theme park full of families with kids. I hope he gets the help that he needs, but he did this with kids around, so I hope that he gets what he deserves. I also don't speak for the brand or the company. I just want this to be a family theme park where families can go and have fun. Okay, thank you, bye.
Now, we know that Disney would do anything to maintain its reputation, so did it help covering up the disappearance of Rebecca Corium? This is part 2, so make sure that you go check out part 1. So Disney has gone through all this effort to lie, to erase footage, to crop out timestamps and dates. So what are they hiding? A few months after Rebecca disappeared, a reporter called the cruise ship and tried to talk to some of the cruise ship workers, with one saying, Disney knows exactly what happened. When they asked another cruise ship worker, they said, I don't know anything about it, it didn't happen, that's the answer I have to give. Rebecca's family described her as a happy-go-lucky, and that's why she worked at Disney, because she had that type of personality. However, cruise ship workers who worked with Rebecca said that she had an underlying sadness even though she seemed happy. In 2017, Tracy Medley broke her silence. She was Rebecca's girlfriend and co-worker. She claims that night, her and Rebecca engaged in a threesome with a male boyfriend of Medley's. According to Medley, Rebecca had been distraught over their fiery and passionate relationship in the weeks prior. So Rebecca's girlfriend basically said that because of all of this, Rebecca may have wanted to end her life and threw herself over the ship. So there are multiple stories we're hearing, but none of them are actually making sense. And Rebecca's own family said that she was very open about everything with them, so they do deny this claim. So was Rebecca Corium murdered? A good friend of Rebecca's said that the investigation was a joke because multiple people were not interviewed. And they flew out one investigator to interview over 500 to 1,000 people. In 2016, they discovered some new evidence. They discovered a pair of ripped shorts. Law enforcement believe that this pointed to signs of sexual assault and even struggle right before her disappearance. Months after Rebecca's disappearance, the family noticed that her Facebook password had been changed and there was still activity in her bank account. But the case still remains unsolved. Some accuse Disney, some accuse Rebecca's girlfriend, but it's clear to tell that this case wasn't handled properly. And there is something pretty shady about it.
Did you know that since the year 2000, about 400 people have gone missing on cruise ships? Only 10% of them are ever solved, and only 15 to 20% of them are ever reported on. Rebecca Corium is one of those people. Have you ever heard of her? Rebecca was 24 years old and from Chester, England. Rebecca was described as fun-loving, happy-go-lucky, just an all-around bright and bubbly person, and in order to work at Disney, you kind of have to be that person. She was hired to work on the cruise ship, the Disney Wonder, and she was going to work with children. In March of 2011, she was on her way from Los Angeles to Mexico on the Disney Wonder. On March 22nd of 2011, at about 5:45 in the morning, Rebecca is seen on CCTV footage wearing men's clothing, and she looks visibly distressed. She was in the crew lounge, and she was talking on the internal phone line. After Rebecca hung up the phone, she is never seen or heard from again. She simply vanished into thin air. When Rebecca didn't show up to her 9 a.m. shift, it was reported and people did start looking for her. The United States Coast Guard and the Navy were also sent out to look for her, but no one could find her anywhere. Eventually, the captain of the Disney Wonder decided that Rebecca had simply been taken up by a rogue wave and washed out to sea. But this case is a whole lot stranger, and the story doesn't really make sense. Rebecca's family soon got involved, and they noticed some strange things that happened with the investigation into Rebecca's disappearance. Standard operating procedure would dictate that the ship needed to be turned around so that they could search for Rebecca, but that never happened. Under the flag of convenience system, jurisdiction would fall to wherever the boat was registered to, and that happened to be the Bahamas. And apparently a lot of cruise ships do this because of taxes. It was 3 days after Rebecca disappeared that Disney contacted the Royal Bahamas Police Force to conduct an investigation into her disappearance. The Royal Bahamas Police Force sent one investigator to search for Rebecca. He was flown by private jet to Los Angeles to search, and during his investigation, he interviewed 6 of the 950 employees and none of the 2,000 passengers that were on board at the time of Rebecca's disappearance. We'll get into more in part 2, and it'll be up as soon as I'm done filming, so give me a couple of minutes and it'll be up. So here is part 2 to the Disney cruise ship disappearance. Disney took their time getting in touch with Rebecca's family, but when they finally did, they flew them to Los Angeles so they could see the cruise ship themselves. According to Rebecca's family, everything was staged by Disney. They were taken in a car with blacked out windows. They were taken into the boat's back entrance as the passengers disembarked from the front. They then took them into a room and played the CCTV footage of Rebecca on the phone. The captain explained to the family that Rebecca was swept off of the ship by a rogue wave on deck 5. They were taken to deck 5, and that's when they immediately realized that the deck was guarded by 6-foot walls. So that means that the rogue wave would have had to have been at least 100 feet tall in order to sweep Rebecca off the deck. They were then taken to Rebecca's cabin, where they were shown a flip-flop that was found on deck 5, and that's what proved that she was swept off the deck by a wave. But her family said that this flip-flop was not the size that Rebecca wore, and it wasn't her style either. It wasn't something she would have normally bought. The very next day, the Disney Wonder was off on another cruise only after a couple of days of investigating. They put out some flowers on deck 5 to show sympathy towards Rebecca, but then they considered the matter closed. Rebecca's family hired a private investigator, and they were able to find that the CCTV footage that they were shown was actually cropped and wasn't taken on deck 5, but it was actually taken on deck 1. When any of the crew members talked about it, they didn't say much because basically Disney wouldn't let them, or at least that's what they implied. There was some talk that Rebecca was seeing a girl on the cruise ship and that they were having some troubles because this girl she was seeing was also seeing a man, and Rebecca was struggling with that. So some people implied that maybe Rebecca had jumped, but her family insists that Rebecca would not do that. That was not like her at all, and I think her family would know her best. And in 2016, an investigator found a pair of ripped shorts in Rebecca's personal effects, which leads some people to believe that she might have been essayed or attacked while she was on the boat, and this was simply a way to cover it up. Her family also found that in the months after her disappearance, there was activity in her bank account and also a Facebook password change. But as far as what happened to Rebecca is still unknown, and I think this investigation was botched from the beginning, and Disney is desperate to keep their image as the happiest place on earth, so they cannot help with the investigation. But what are your thoughts on this case? Let me know down in the comments, and follow for more true crime.
Yeah.